So, welcome to another Empowering Your Circle podcast. Today, I'm speaking to the lovely Mel Byron. And Mel spent 20 years in publishing before transferring her skills and all her passion, which I can attest um, to being on stage as a comedian, but also helping individuals as a speaking coach, making them feel comfortable to public speak because it's actually a very important skill, but a lot of people are very scared of it. Um, she enables individuals and teams to become more confident and achieve kind of the results that you want to achieve. Now, I've known Mel now for a few months. I know we've got a lot in common. We've connected in ways that I hadn't even imagined was going to
Mm.
be possible. So I'm really excited. Um, but what I would also say is, I know, and I'm testament to the fact that Mel can bring out the best in someone,
Oh,
because you understand everybody's individuality, and I think that's important. That's a skill in itself to be able to understand
yeah.
everybody individually and what they need. So I think you're inspiring if you can get people to open up, you know. So, what made you take the leap from a corporate world to become a comedian, to help people like do this kind of public speaking? And also, Bertie told me that maybe you'd like to dip your toes back into corporate in some shape or form.
Yeah, I mean, what made me so those things didn't all happen at once. Um, so I made the leap out of the corporate world. It's really simple. It's a simple story that we all know. Two bad bosses in a row, and I just thought, I'm done with this. And I'd had I think we've all had bosses where we just thought, oh, for heaven's sake. But you deal with that. But I had one who was quite frankly doing it for sport. He was a bully for sport. Uh,
Right.
and then I finally left that job and went to another job. And whilst I was there, a new MD came in and he was awful as well, but in a different kind of way. And I just thought, do you know what? I was coming up to a significant age at this point, and I just thought, do you know what? I'm not going to be here when I hit another zero. So I kind of made a long-term plan. I knew at the beginning of that year that I was going to leave. And I thought, if I get another job, that's great. But if I don't, I've got it. So I was like squirreling and spending as little as possible, but then also having a blowout because I thought I didn't know what my work situation was going to be. And I remember it really well. It was all, yeah, it was end of November. And I'd
Ah,
gone on a business trip to Switzerland and I'd bought loads of chocolate for everybody in the office because I knew this was going to be my last business trip. And I just piled it up in the kitchen. And then we were only on a month's notice because it was an American company. And I went and handed my notice in. I'd booked Christmas off, so I only had like 3 weeks and 2 days. And that didn't go down well, but them's the rules.
yep, them's
Um,
the rules.
and I followed the rules. I handed in my notice, with 4 weeks, a month in advance of when I wanted to leave. Unfortunately, that included Christmas. And it was so weird because I was so miserable in that job, so unspeakably miserable because of him. And I left and we went on holiday the day after and we came back on January the 1st. And on January the 2nd, I woke up in the morning and I didn't know what to do with myself because I couldn't remember what it was like not feeling miserable on a work day.
Wow.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
took me ages to kind of get beyond that. Oh, it's a work day, it's going to be horrible. Because the holiday kind of, didn't have to think about that anyway. But suddenly, January the 2nd, it was like,
That's a big
weird.
shift, isn't it?
It was a huge shift. It was a huge shift. And even at that point, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to do something that helped other people. And then I'd done comedy before in my 20s and got seduced by, salaries, uh, as you do. And I thought, I know. I'll write a show about the current workplace and how awful it is and take it to Edinburgh. I don't know why I got this idea. And I thought, so I went back to comedy. So I did that. Wasn't my best show because it was my first full-length show. And it was the show I needed to write. It was almost cathartic. I needed to get that out of there. But I kind of realized that, yes, throughout my career, I'd always presented and mentored people in my teams and presenting. So when I came back from Edinburgh, I thought, okay, this is what I need to be doing. And I was still working that by this point I'd got a part-time job in publishing. It's a much more benign organization. So I kind of came out, I didn't having had that leap and gone, it's January the 2nd, what do I do? I then got a part-time job and kind of then slowly built up to what I wanted to do. Um, and yeah, and I thought, well, this is what I should be doing. And you know, it's weird because for ages I kept the two parallel, the comedy and the
Wow.
speaker coaching, and I thought you're an idiot because that's your USP. Because there's people speaker coaching all over the place. And I thought, well, this is my USP. So I kind of melded the whole thing together
Yes, because
into,
you've got something that's called work like a comedian. So I was
yes,
going to move into that and ask you, like, what's the theme behind that? Like, because
well, that,
people picture comedians on a stage and whatever. How's that
yeah, well,
relevant to me in the workplace?
this is about it's about yes, humor comes into it. So I've done it a few times as a keynote and a couple of times as a workshop, and it's something that I want to do more of. And what it is we're taking not so much jokes, although it is fun, but the comedian's craft and applying it to the workplace. So, I mean, in the job two full-time jobs ago with the boss who was a bully for sport, he was very clear about what he wanted. And if you didn't deliver it, you were considered a failure. There was no sense of, hey, let's try this and let's throw ideas around. And I just thought, well, this is what we do in comedy all the time. And tonight I'm doing a new material night where I'll do some things. Probably most of them won't work, but it doesn't matter. It's low stakes, but you got to try them to work it through. And that's the kind of environment that I think we should be working. That's why we should be working like comedians by doing work in progress and new material like we do. And then also into that comes a degree of creative confidence as well, and confidence to take the stage. So that does combine some of the public speaking. And the other thing that there's three parts to it because I love a good rule of three. And the other thing is really about addressing how we make people feel and how we feel in our working day. As comics, you know exactly if you've done your job properly because they laugh. So you know you've delivered the feelings that they've paid for. But at work, we don't know. And yet, just a simple thing like, thank you. Oh, well done. Oh, that meant a lot to me. Can really lift someone's
Yeah,
day. Yeah. Whilst
yeah,
equally ignoring someone or going, well, that's a stupid idea, can crush somebody.
absolutely. Yeah.
And so I want us to be more conscious of how we make people feel in a way that as comics we do. Because I'm telling you, if an audience doesn't laugh, you as the performer feel crushed. So the
I could think there'd be nothing worse because you're on a stage and people are literally in front of you, you know.
it's horrible. It's horrible. And it's happened to all of us. We've all got our horror stories. And sometimes it's just it's not your audience. And you can never
Mm.
never blame the audience. It's just they're not your audience and it's a mismatch. Sometimes it is you. You're just having an off day and your rhythm goes and you're rubbish. Yeah, it happens. Uh, but it's horrible. It's horrible. And it
And
makes
I
you feel
guess
like, oh, I can't do
that's
anything.
where in a workplace as well, like you can walk into a workplace and you've had the worst morning in the world. Like you might normally walk into a workplace and everything's like, yay,
Yeah.
positive, and then the train's running late. You're walking across the road and the car went
Yeah.
up your legs and everything else. You've had a really bad start. So you walk in and all of that suddenly positivity that you may have started the day with is no longer there. And that
Hmm.
really and truly does have an impact as well on how, you're perceived, how you perceive everything as well during the day.
Yeah, totally, totally. And it also then that affects quality of work because if we're
Yeah.
not feeling great, we do not our best work. And I just cannot get past managers who think that this is an okay way to treat people because treat them mean, keep them keen kind of thing will make them do best. Nobody does their best work when they feel. How does anybody think that? Well, the reason they think it is because they're not thinking broadly. And I'm sorry to say, using that managerial leadership platform
Mm.
as a way to bully people and bullying is just the worst thing in a corporate setting or any setting
Yeah.
and because we know bullying it's like a drug. It makes you feel good about yourself for the 30 seconds when you've made somebody smaller, but you have to keep topping that up. So you have to keep bullying people.
Yeah.
And if that's how you need to kind of feel good about yourself, you absolutely should not be in a leadership position. But
No.
too many people
It's
are, unfortunately.
Yeah, there are. And you were talking about bad bosses and stuff like years ago. I remember I managed to hang out for about, I think, 7 or 8 weeks. It was the shortest ever working thing that I've ever done. And he seriously was not a very good boss or a very nice boss. In fact, yes, I would probably put him at the bottom of my barrel of
Mm.
bosses that I've had. Um, but it was so funny because I had to sign something that was so thick and I was only doing like office management at the time. So I was like, okay, fine, you know, but it worked to my advantage because when I looked for my notice period, because it was still within this 8 week thing, I had to give 1 day's notice. And I thought, okay. So I was like, here's my resignation, blah, blah, blah. And I left it on his desk. And he walked in the morning and he said, "What's this?" And was just like, didn't know how to handle my thing. And I'd never done anything like this before, ever. But, the hours that I was being asked to work and the fact that there was no recognition for all I was doing and, all sorts of things. And we had contractors, furniture contractors in there at the time who were struggling to work with him as well. And so I said, well, I only have to give a day's notice. And so here's my thing. And that's it. And anyway, I ended up leaving earlier than I needed to. And I thought, what's going to happen?
Yeah, well, so yeah, exactly.
So, um, and I'd got my pay had already gone through because I'd made sure that had happened. And so I literally said bye and walked out the door, and all the furniture contractors started clapping.
Oh my God.
It was like, okay, yeah, I
Oh.
think I made the right choice here.
Oh my God, absolutely. You know, your gut is never wrong about these things,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. If
I
I'd have
remember,
stayed there, I think my whole being would have just dipped.
and
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 it would,
I've been there. I've been there where
yeah,
it erodes you, not just as a worker, but as a human, because you come home and you bring it home with you,
yeah,
and you get to a point where you feel like you shouldn't enjoy life because you're a terrible person, and it's just horrendous. And I've been through it twice. The second time wasn't as bad because I thought I'd been there before and I got myself an exit strategy. But my God, I blew the whistle when I left. I was, they knew because by the time I left, loads of people had left. It had been like a revolving door. And I was the most senior person to leave. And I left about a year after I should have done. But, sometimes you think there's greater dignity in staying than in going, don't you? And I
yeah,
foolishly thought that. I thought, no, no, it's greater. It's better if I stay. But I just thought, you're an idiot. Go. So I kind of had to, but I had to have a long-term plan because I didn't quite know what I wanted next. And yeah, and I just felt so, it was just the worst situation. But in the meantime, whilst I'm doing all of this, other people are leaving, the younger people who didn't have to make the plans that I needed to do, like, what are we going to do? Oh, we better pay off the mortgage and all that kind of thing. So the younger people with those shorter notice periods, or their lives were structured differently, were able to leave. And I just hung on in there. But by the time I left, the company well knew, his bosses across the Atlantic knew well that something was wrong. So I had the mother of all exit interviews. I'd officially left by this point, but because of the time difference, they could only talk to me at night in my time. So I thought, well, I've officially left, but hey, I will give up the time for this. What was really interesting was about 3 months, less than 3 months later, about 2 months later, the boss in question left um,
Uh,
suddenly. And I was getting,
suddenly.
my phone was going off left, right, and center, and people going, come back, come back. And I thought, no, because my leaving, I think, was the final nail in the coffin. And
Mm,
and so it had to happen. And also, you shouldn't go back. You should never
no,
go back.
no, there's a reason why you've done what you've done, and now you have to
And now
grow and
face
move forward.
forward, yeah. And
Yeah,
just at that point, I got a part-time job and was thinking, oh, what do I want to do now? What do I want to do now? And thinking I must do something creative and so on, because I kind of stamped on my creative side. Even though I worked in a creative industry, I was crunching numbers most of the time and, worrying
yeah,
about the bottom line, because I was working more on the commercial side. So I kind of thought, I need to do something creative. And then it just hit me, come back to comedy because it's very fulfilling. And it was a very different place to come back to as a middle-aged person. And also the landscape of comedy had changed. So, that was about finding my place in there as well. But it was an
yeah,
interesting thing to do. So now I'm kind of a portfolio person where I do some comedy, I do some writing, and I also coach public speaking, which is, the thing that makes my heart sing, I think, more than
yeah.
anything.
See, that's the thing. We always need something going to make our heart sing. And I like the fact that it's kind of you've done like your circle as well, so that's kind of where empowering your circle is. It's kind
Hmm.
of like, because you tend to have something you love, you might park it, go do whatever else,
Yeah.
and then you kind of come back,
Yeah,
and I
and I
think,
think I did that. I parked it because bills had to be paid, mortgage had to be paid. And I guess I'm lucky I'm of the generation where, we could buy homes in our
yes,
20s and things like that. Um, and to the point now where we don't have a mortgage, and my husband and I both had reached this point where we wanted to do something else. And he still does his job, but he does comedy as well. Mm.
why do you do it jointly? Is there like a joint
No,
Mel and
excuse
hubby?
me. No, we don't. People have often asked that. He's a musical comedian.
Oh,
His comedy
okay.
is quite it's odd.
Ah,
It's funny because he's a solicitor by day and he does musical comedy by night. And for him that needs to happen. You need to delineate things
yeah,
and so whereas there are other solicitors or doctors or whatever working in comedy who will talk about the day job.
right.
He won't because those are two very separate things. And the one, yeah, I mean, he likes his job. Don't get me wrong. I mean, what he does as a solicitor is, he works in civil rights, so it's really important stuff. But it kind of feeds his creative soul doing the comedy. So yeah, it's a
Mm,
nice balance, I think.
it's nice to have
Um,
that balance.
mm,
Um, so on your LinkedIn heading, it
mhm.
says helping you speak with power, because I
Yeah,
know you like the word power.
power.
Um, so confidence comes in so many different levels.
Yeah.
Like, someone might have this massive amount of confidence in themselves, possibly can't speak like to what they need, but the confidence they have in what they know and what they love to do is one thing. You might have someone who is like really shy, like more of the introvert, but they have a lot to say, like they want to speak. There's different levels of seniority in a company or
Hmm.
in owning your own business, right down to, I don't know, people who are literally just starting out in their careers and they have to like tell someone, like present themselves in a way that someone's going to listen, like take them on and build their careers. And there's so many different elements. So if somebody is finding it difficult to like find their voice, step out into this public speaking, what kind of things can they do?
And it's really interesting because I often talk about when I'm working with people, the concept of voice, meaning two completely different things. And obviously there's what goes on here, the larynx and the vocal folds and all of that malarkey. And people worry about that. They worry about, oh, I'm a bit quiet. I'm a bit shy. Oh, my accent's a bit odd. So people worry about that. And then there's voice as in, the thing, the expression of what you believe in. And I read a statistic that says that 85% of us have actually stamped on our own voice in a working context. So we've
Wow.
sat in that meeting and gone, oh, I really have something important to say. Oh, but no, everybody's got, oh, no, they're not going to like it. Oh, I better not. Oh, and loads of us have done that. And so often, and somebody else has gone and said it, and people going, yeah, that's a great idea. And you go, ah, damn, I didn't say it. I didn't
It's
say it.
like when somebody doesn't ask a question, like there's probably three people in that room that want to ask that same question,
Yeah.
and everybody's too nervous. They're sitting there going, oh, it's going to sound silly, and nobody's going to, they're all going to make fun of me or whatever. And you need to be able to speak up because that's the way we all learn.
Absolutely. And so what we have to do, I mean, there is sort of the three things I work on with people is first of all their mindset. What's going on in here? Because so much of that lack of confidence is what's going on in here. You are still the expert, even if you've now been asked to go and stand at the front of the room and talk about it. But somehow it's almost like a little tap goes on and all the expertise flows out of your head because you're now standing at the front of the room talking to people about it. Whereas if we're just sitting here chatting, that expertise flows nice and neatly. And it happens to me so many times. People have given a talk, like I've been working with a client and they'll give a talk. And then they'll say to me when they've sat down, yeah, but the really interesting thing is, I thought, well, why, if that's the interesting thing, why is that not in the, it's because somehow we do hold back. And so we have to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. That's the first thing. And we also have to give the people listening to us the benefit of the doubt as well that they've come to hear you. They want to hear what you have to say. We all know stuff that other people don't know. We all know stuff other people know, but only we have that combination of things that only we know
Yeah.
based on our what we studied, where we've worked, our background, all those things. So we have to have that confidence to, even if we haven't really got that confidence, we have to reach an accommodation and understanding of what we know and how valuable it can be. And that can be an intellectual understanding without genuinely believing
Yeah.
that it's the case. And so a lot of work goes on with the mindset. And the other thing to do, and the second prong when I'm working, this is specifically with speaking clients, is looking at how you structure what you say and the words we use and using the power of story and storytelling rather than just regurgitating information.
Hmm.
We're all informed up to and beyond here. I realize my hand is higher than the screen now
Yeah.
because we have all we're just done with information. Leave it. Yeah, what we want is to be made to feel something, and you can only do that and have that connection. We can only do that by telling a story around the figures. Well,
Yeah.
these are this month's sales figures. What do they mean? What do they mean? I can see objectively that we are 5% down on this time last year. Why? What are we going to do about it? So it's telling those stories. And also the other thing we work on is how you deliver, because I guarantee you that every single person, because we all do this, if we want something to be over with, we'll do it quickly. So we'll race through
Oh,
our presentation and we'll talk really fast so that nobody can understand what we're saying and then get disappointed that we don't
yeah.
get a reaction. When in fact, the opposite is what you should do. Slow right down. So the
Slow
mess.
and steady wins the race.
Absolutely, every time, racing through is not going to help. And so those are the things we have to kind of think about. I would say if you ask me for one piece of information, just give me one piece of advice. We've got 10 seconds, one piece of advice. Slow. That's the one thing. If you take away nothing else, just be slow. You can never be too slow. You
I
think
was
you
going to
can,
say,
but you think you can, but you can't. You know, it's very hard to speak so slowly that it falls apart. It's just really hard to do that
yeah,
and maintain any level of momentum. But it's
yeah,
easy to slow down. Have a pause. Take a pause where there's a full stop at the end of the sentence. Slow, slow, slow. If you take away nothing else from anything you've ever heard from me, just keep it slow. It's just a huge gift and it really helps.
yeah. I mean, I've sat through presentations and things sometimes where literally they've gone so fast and then they've moved the slide for if you're watching a slideshow as well, then they move the slide and I'm like, oh yeah, but I was watching that. It's
Yeah.
like, and it's gone. And so therefore you're like, I have no idea what you just said. And then I couldn't even see the visual. So yeah, slowing down is so
Slowing down,
important.
and also people are using the visuals to tell the story they should be telling. The visual should just be an enhancement. So if losing the visual is losing you the thread of the story, then that's not a good use of visuals.
Yeah.
So go back to I always say so, I mean I used to do this when PowerPoint first came out. Oh, I've got to do a presentation. Whack open the computer, start banging out slides. No, that happens last. When you've
Yeah.
decided what you want to say, you've decided your format, see where you can add in some visual elements to enhance. So the slide bit comes at the end, not the beginning. It shouldn't be the guide through the talk. And if people can't follow what you're doing, and if you can't follow what you're doing without slides, because I know people do this, well, if I write it on a slide, I'll know what's coming next. And as I've said to somebody once before, but you wrote the slides,
Yeah.
so you should know what
You know
flows
what's coming
next.
next. Like, that's your flow. That's not the audience's flow. That's yours.
Exactly. And they don't know what you meant to say. If you forget something, it's not the end of the world. Just go back and say, oh, before I leave you, one very important point I'd like to emphasize. They don't know you forgot it 10 minutes ago. Do you know, there's all kinds of little tips and tricks. And so that's what I want to do with people. I want to work with people on finding those ways through while still maintaining their authenticity. I
Yeah.
don't believe in everybody's the same and this is what a good talk looks like. There's a rough framework around what a good talk should be. I completely believe that and what a good
Mm.
talk should do specifically. But how you do it can be individual to each of us. And somebody once said to me, "Oh, I want to talk like you." And now we're all going to sing that song from the Jungle Book. I want to be like you.
Yeah.
But no, you don't want to be like me. You want to be like you,
Yeah.
but a better version of it.
Yeah. And I totally agree. The other day, or was another, I was going to say the other day, but actually it's not the other day. I think this is 2 or 3 weeks ago now. Um, we I attended one of your Amplify workshops. Was a number of us that were there and we were learning and we were like gaining all these insights because I'm very as came out, I'm very um outwardly really good and I use my arms like this and stuff when I'm
Yeah.
training and when I'm doing other things. But it was really important for me and the other attendees, I think, to see what classifies as feeling small versus something that's feeling big. Um, One of the words that came out that day, which none of us had really heard about, including the person that told us about it until she looked it up, was scopophobia, which
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's just like this amazing word.
Yeah.
Um,
I know.
um, so, do you want to just tell us? Because actually, I think it relates not only to like Brigitte, who was talking about
Mhm.
photography, but also, in terms of public speaking and being in front of people.
Yeah. It's an
You want to
irrational
just,
scopophobia. It's an irrational fear of being looked at. basically.
Mm.
And you can imagine, I mean, I hate having my photograph taken as well. Uh, everybody do. I don't know anybody who enjoys that process. I mean, I have a friend who was a professional model for many years, and even she said, "Oh, when I used to look at the photos, I go, I hate that, I hate that, I hate that, I hate that." And if you'd seen her, you'd think, "How could you hate anything your age?" So we all have that, and so it becomes. But whilst we're speaking, when we are aware of all eyes on us, then that kind of there is that fear that kicks in because it's very vulnerable, isn't it? It makes you very vulnerable.
Yeah.
Having your photograph taken makes you very vulnerable, and standing in front of people makes you very vulnerable. And so our natural instinct, as you say, was to kind of make yourself smaller. And I've seen it time and time again where people bring their shoulders in, hands down in front of them, almost as if I've got my hands in front of me, you can't see me.
Yeah, I'm hiding.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, especially new comedians will often stand behind the microphone stand for no particular reason other than it feels like a nice barrier between you and the
Oh,
audience.
is that why they do
It's
it?
yeah, most comedians will take it out. I mean, Sarah Millican, who is absolutely brilliant, she stands behind the microphone the whole time. She's very unusual in doing that. Most people will move around, but when you first start, it's like this lovely protective barrier. It's what, an inch in diameter. But look, I'm safe. I'm in the safe zone. And so yeah, we want to be big. We want people to make impact. We want to be powerful. But at the same time, our natural instinct is to make ourselves smaller. And unfortunately, in order to make that to be powerful and to be impactful, we have to take that vulnerability on the chin and actually attempt to make ourselves bigger. It is a feat. And I would say to people, consciously stand taller before you speak, even if it feels silly. Because I hunch because I'm at a desk a lot as well. We all hunch,
Yeah.
but consciously throw your shoulders back and stand taller. Over time, you'll feel yourself shrinking and then come back up again. But you have to be conscious of it and think, no, I am going to be bigger today.
Well, I sometimes when I need to do something that I'm feeling less than confident about, I will do my power pose.
Ah, you're Wonder Woman. Yeah.
You
What
know,
You know that the research, I can't remember if we talked about this in the workshop, the research into that by Professor Amy Cuddy, who kind of co-devised these, is that doing these power poses actually releases testosterone.
oh,
Exactly. Because we all have our masculine and our feminine sides. And
mm.
it is, I'm sorry to say, ladies, that the masculine side that gives us that kind of confidence boost is fine. That's fine, because we're all both we should be channeling all both masculine and the feminine, because that's what makes us up. But it's that masculine side that actually gives you that confidence boost. And it's the same, that when men sit in an office, and with their arms out and their legs open, sitting in their office chair, leaning back on it. And when it's your awful boss, you just hope to God he pushes himself back far enough, he falls off. Yeah, because when you're feeling rubbish at work, that's the kind of thinking you go through. Uh, but yeah, so we need to channel that masculine side to give us that boost. But I think power poses are great.
Yeah,
I really do
yeah.
give
I think there's
those.
something to be said by the fact that you can make yourself just with doing something, it just makes you feel different. There's
Yeah.
something about it that just makes you feel like you've got a bit more confidence to step into that new space that
And,
you've got to
and
get into.
and it's interesting because when we're feeling anxious and nervous, this is our amygdala, this is our brain's alarm system telling us that we're under threat. And then that sends us physical signals, the sweaty palms, the breathing and everything, and the heart racing. So it makes complete sense that we can reverse that process and get our body to kind of trick our brain into, hey, I'm feeling really confident today. Look at my pose. It it makes sense for us to do that because our brains, even though they're complicated on the one hand, they're actually quite simple on the other. So if you tell your brain, look, confidence coming through, it kind of believes that. But if your brain
Yeah.
thinks there's a threat, and it doesn't matter what that threat might be, and that threat in public speaking or standing on stage in any context is to your dignity, because there's nothing less dignified than feeling like, oh my God, I'm falling. But the thing is, nobody's ever died of lack of dignity, and so
No.
this is a mindset shift that we need to kind of get into. I understand the brain is giving me that signal, but I'm going to do my power pose and send it a signal back. Hey guys, look at me, I'm full of
Yeah.
it.
Don't fight with me. Don't mess with me.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm a menopausal woman and I'm doing a power pose. You're not strong enough to take this on.
Um, so I love that you did a LinkedIn post and it was about travel planning, but you
Hmm.
linked it to public speaking, like having a plan first,
Yeah.
So in term obviously when you're speaking, you should already know kind of what you're speaking about.
Hmm.
But how important is it to have that plan in
It,
place for both
it's
those things, I
it's
suppose?
it's essential. It's essential. Now we're all asked to talk off the cuff from time to time, and I think it's fine to, when you're doing that, to signpost like, look, I haven't prepared, like in a meeting, say, look, I haven't prepared off the top of my head X, but I don't really want to get into it without some preparation. I think it's absolutely fine to signal that, shut that one down fairly quickly whenever you
Yeah.
can. If you're giving a presentation, and I've heard people say, oh, I'll just wing it. And the reason why they wing it is because confronting it and preparing it means confronting the fear, the anxiety, the vulnerability.
Yeah.
But if you wing it, then you can't be present in the room. You
Mm,
can't, you're not really there. And you need to be present in the room to deal with what happens in the room, which could be questions or understanding what your audience wants from you, and really being able to read the room. And it behoves all of us and to the people who come to hear us that we are fully present in the room and not worrying about the next word that's coming out of our mouth. So preparation is absolutely essential. I realize it means spending extra time with
yeah.
something we don't enjoy, which is that feeling of anxiety about public speaking. But if you don't prepare, you're not, what are you going to say? Yes, you've got expertise, but it's just going to just tumble out in a non-structured fashion. And if we don't structure, we're not going to get our message across. Your message is going to get
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah. And I think you're right because all the audience members are sitting there waiting to get that important message from you,
Yeah.
and if you can't get that across to the different members of the audience, because they're all
Hmm.
going to be different. So it doesn't matter if you've got one PowerPoint presentation or one speech, you will be in front of lots of people. And I suppose that comes back to the comedian thing too, because if you are, I know, you're delivering your comedian topics or whatever you're
Yeah.
doing, it's going to hit with some people potentially, and then the other side of the audience potentially not. So then it's like, how do I juggle to see how I can laughter across the audience?
And
Just,
absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know,
I mean, as some comedians, for example, they will, if it's it's a decent club night where they've got a decent space and they've also got a green room. A lot of comedians will just go and sit in the green room. I never do that. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what's going on in the room. And a good MC will be doing the work so that the comedians can see what's going on in the room. And I want to know who's in the room. If it's a bunch of middle-aged women, I'm like, yay, my tribe. If it's a bunch of younger people, I'm like, okay, how do I? Because I do a lot of stuff about being our age, menopause and all of that, which of
yeah,
course hits home with the women of our age. But younger people, it doesn't. So now I have to kind of tailor it for them. So sometimes I might say, now this is the educational part of the show for you over here for this table, but this table, not
Gosh.
so much. You know, I'm actually looking around the room and I'm trying to read the room and see who's in the room and what tone I need to hit for them. Sometimes you don't get it right. It's just the luck of the draw. But you can't get it right at all if you're not present in the room.
Yeah, you're right. It's a very tricky thing. And I think especially if you've got that fear in you already, like when I used to train people about presenting or doing their elevator pitches, right? They'd go, "Oh yes, this is all too much. I'm going to have to do it in front of lots of people, and it's all just now it's scaring me." And so I used to say to them, "Okay, so record yourself." Listen to yourself back. Oh, I don't like listening to my voice. Okay. So look in the mirror and kind of talk to yourself in the mirror, and and people don't like doing any of those sorts of prep things because it's hard. I mean, I was talking to someone earlier, and they people don't like the sound of their own voice. That can be the biggest fear
Yeah,
of kind of public speaking.
we
If
need
I
to
don't
get
like
beyond
it,
that. Yeah, we
yeah.
absolutely need to get beyond that because recording your voice, I always say to people, film yourself, but then you don't have to watch it. Just listen to your voice because it'll tell you so much. If you look at it, you will judge yourself on how you
Mm,
look. But
true.
actually talking to yourself in front of a mirror is actually much more helpful than that. And just for posture checking, if nothing else.
As
Genuinely, I think recording yourself, but for the purpose of listening, is the most
mm,
important thing. To listen to your voice. Your voice will tell you a lot. If you watch it straight out the bag, you're going to criticize your hair, your clothes, and all the things that are not what we mean by how you look. And
mm,
that, in that sense, as you said, going in front of a mirror is a much better exercise because then you're going to be checked for your posture and how you kind of come across, how you're using your hands. What are your feet doing? Where are they standing? Are you standing to your full height? So that's the important part. But I think the voice can tell you an awful lot. The other thing to
yeah.
say also about the posture and standing to your full height, which is really important, is that you need to get air coming out. You need to get air into your lungs, into the base of your lungs, which is the biggest part, because you need to have air in there to help the breathing, because the breathing also helps the pace. Because what happens if you don't breathe properly is you go, and my name's Mel, and and then you breathe in the wrong place. So what's really important is that if you stand up to your full height or sit up to your full to your full height if we're on Zoom, as we are today, then you can allow for the air, you can get the because you want to be breathing from the diaphragm, which is much lower down than producing your voice from your throat. And for those of us who use our voice a lot, the throat is a very vulnerable bit.
Oh, it certainly is.
I'm just over a horrible cold where I actually lost my voice last week. I literally couldn't speak.
Yeah.
And thank
And it's the
God.
worst because that happened to me in like June, and I just was laid up for 2 weeks, and I'd never lost my voice before ever. So I had to not do training. I couldn't do so much of
Mm.
my stuff because I literally couldn't talk. My youngest thought it was quite good because, he's so used to texting anyway that the only way I could text was to text with everybody because they were like, I think they possibly in my house thought it was quite nice because it was so quiet. Mum didn't talk.
No,
So
it's hard, isn't it? It's hard because we don't we don't value our voice, the other voice, the actual physical
the actual
voice,
voice.
perhaps as much as we should. But this is what happens when you and I'm aware I'm doing it now actually because I'm sitting down that I am actually producing from here, from the throat, and not from the middle, from the
Right.
diaphragm. Which if I was standing up, there is no way I would be doing that. And if I was presenting, I would definitely be. I'd have done the breathing, I'd have filled the lungs and made sure I had plenty of air going.
Okay,
So
so
that's another reason for good posture.
right, so we all know shoulders
Mhm.
back.
Shoulders
um,
back, chest back.
um,
No.
so Mel, do you have a favorite quote? Or if you can't remember one, because I've thrown it spoon a spoon
Yeah.
works. Just a last kind of tip that's really important. So either like a quote you like, or
Well, two things. First of all, there's a really rather lovely quote from Goethe, which goes on the lines of everything is difficult until it is easy. And I think that's
oh,
wonderful because even though it's a very simple message, what it's basically saying is just keep going.
yeah,
Just keep going. I coach people all the time and I always say to them, look, this is like doing your driving test. Yeah, it'll get better the more you do it. When you pass your driving test, you get a certificate that says you can drive a car. You can't. You really,
no,
you can master the mechanics of driving a car.
yeah,
But what we need to do is to do the driving to get better at it. And it's exactly the same with speaking or any kind of stagecraft. It's hard until it gets easy, and it gets easier by doing it. And that means
yeah,
we won't always get it right. But you've got to start that. This is a word I hate, journey. Because they always say that on things like Strictly Come Dancing, don't they? I'm on a journey.
yes,
And but it's
yeah.
progress. It's progress. So that's always struck me as something really wise.
I like it. I like it because do you know what? Most of the things we face in life are difficult, and we have to work our way through them.
Exactly.
Just to and it's not always going to be like a short, sort of way of getting there.
No,
Sometimes
no.
it can be a longer. But I think the thing is, one of the things I said to somebody, I think it was when I was talking to Shelley, who's doing another podcast, um, and I said, the thing is that people don't ask for help.
Yeah,
And I think that's the same in anything. Like just, I just can't speak publicly. Like I can talk when I get home, and I can,
yeah,
talk to my friends or whatever. But you put me somewhere where I'm in a space that doesn't feel comfortable to me, I don't know what to do. And that's why you need to ask for help,
yeah,
because, there is people out there like you who can kind
yeah.
of help you get through those stages that you need to get through, so that is
Absolutely.
easier at the other end. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But the magic only happens when you do it
yeah,
and keep doing it. And
yeah,
we get kind of stuck in, sometimes we can get stuck in the either the fear zone or the learning zone. Like, oh, I'm having tuition, so I'm going to be brilliant. And yes, you can be, but you still got to go out there and do it.
yeah,
There's only so much anybody can coach you. That it has to
yeah.
come from you. Mm.
Oh, well, Mel, thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Oh, it was a pleasure. As you know, I always love to talk. So
I know, but you love what you do, and that's really important. So,
absolutely,
thank you
absolutely.
again, and I'll be
Thank you.
sending this out, and everybody's going to find out
Fantastic.
how to be a public speaker.
Yay. Thank you very
Yay!
much.